Welcome in on a Wednesday edition. It is orange and blue today. Cecil Lammy, Andrew Mason, and we're looking for clues, Mace. We want to know not only which running back, but when the Broncos will take a running back.
Yeah. The one big thing we learned for certain this week, and we already knew it for all intents and purposes, but it was confirmed they are drafting a running back. Sort of like last year, there was no suspense. We knew they were drafting a quarterback. There was no suspense to it. The Broncos are drafting a running back, and George Paton made that clear that they're going to go ahead and do that.
Now,
it's just a question of when.
Yes, and that's why you're down there in Florida. The win clue. Let's talk about this, because if we say when, Mace, you and I could put together a pretty good list of running backs that'll be available at that time. But I think the win conversation in this stacked class, and we have varying opinions from professionals out there of like, even though it's early, I think it was Mike Tannenbaum, correct me if I'm wrong, who's like, even in this class, you still could take it back early because you have two backs that are outstanding at the head of the class.
Right. And that's the thing. Like, you have these two backs, Nash Singenti and Omarion Hampton. And are they different enough? Have they separated enough to where it's worth taking them early and thus not getting a player at another position where there's scarcity? Like that is the whole conundrum here. Like, and in fact, let's just start right here, because George Paton, he had his media availability on Monday here in Palm Beach at the NFL League meetings. And it's something that is going to come up. Like, if you're sitting there at number 20, if you don't trade down, if you don't trade up, and let's say Omarion Hampton is on the board, do you think about all the running backs who are available, all the depth at the position, when you might be sitting there and saying, well, we've got this interior triangle that Sean Payton discussed with tight end, interior receiver, running back. Interior receiver, yeah, you're looking for something a little bit more. You haven't addressed it. You've got areas where you may want to find more depth for the long term. Wide receiver, it's slimmer pickings. Defensive line, it's a pretty good draft, but maybe not as robust depth-wise as running back. So do you think about all these things? Do you think about the scarcity at other positions compared to running back? And we've talked about tight end. I don't think they're done at tight end. I don't think you believe they're done at tight end. And certainly they've had Gunnar Helm and Terrence Ferguson, local guys, in for visits. Terrence Ferguson was in the building this week on his local visit, and he's had a formal with the Broncos. They've conversed with him at the Senior Bowl, so they've had multiple contact points with him. They've had multiple contact points with Gunnar Helm, and these are day 2 tight ends. So, and they're interior targets. So we know they're still thinking about interior targets as well. And while the tight end is deep, there's a little more scarcity there in running back. So do you think about all this as your pick is coming up? Here's what George Paton had to say about scarcity of positions relative to running back and the depth there when you're getting the 20th pick.
You always think about that, especially, the first round, there's a guy there you really like, but you think it's strong. Maybe you'll get him in the second round, so we'll go this. But I think it comes down to, you always want to take the best player on your board. Typically you win in those scenarios.
Okay. The question then becomes, if you're sitting there at number 20 and Omarion Hampton is there, is he the best player on the board?
Only if Tedrow McMillan is not there.
Okay. Are you concerned about some of the comments that have been floating out there this week that somebody found about the film watching from him?
No. I mean, that's something that, as your job, you're going to have to watch film,
Yes.
and there have been plenty of other guys that are just really good at football that maybe don't love football. I don't think Ted McMillan's one of those guys. But again, that's for a team to research. But if I just go based on physical talent, which is what we have to observe, Mace, and, we try to dig in a little bit more about personalities or whatever, although that is a mucky area sometimes. I just point blank physical talent. It's Ted McMillan, Omarion Hampton. I would have Colson Loveland behind him. When George Paton said that, you know who I was thinking of? Because he said we could love him in the first, but maybe we could get him in the second. That's not Hampton. That's Henderson.
Yeah.
He was talking about Henderson. Now, in that scenario, fantasy scenario, I don't think that was Hampton there. I think that was Henderson, because there's no way Hampton's going to last to the second, not with this buzz.
Well, then that's the question of, could you trade down if there's a willing partner? I mean, I've said this before. Are there scenarios where you could get Henderson and Judkins?
Oh, that's too good, Mace. That's too good.
Yeah.
Awesome.
It's too good, but if you could get those two guys who can work well together, is either a 3-down back. Judkins is closer to a 3-down back, obviously, than Henderson.
Yeah.
But that they could handle the share. Like Henderson and Judkins could be Mark Ingram and Alvin Kamara in 2017 for the Saints.
Very much so. Very much so. And I love the idea. You just gave me chills suggesting that, Mason. I'll give you one more comparison and see if you like this. I was watching Travion Henderson again because I love his game. And I get that he doesn't have the power of Kamara. But when I saw his gait, it's a little Jamal Charles, who also, correct me if I'm wrong, was a 3rd-round pick.
You can get those guys in round 3.
Yeah. So maybe Henderson, you don't take him in the 1st round, but you feel good about the 2nd. So do you go back-to-back running backs? Do you go defensive tackle in the 1st round? You talk about Kenneth Grant. I don't think
love Kenneth Grant,
20, but that would be awesome.
I'd love Kenneth Grant in round 1.
So let's say I give you 3 rounds. I go Kenneth Grant, Travion Henderson, Quinshon Judkins, 4th round. I don't think Terrence Ferguson would be there.
Mike Gunnar Helmby.
Yes.
Sold.
Done. We solved the draft, Mace.
Okay. Can we just get to April 24th in Green Bay then? Can we just get there and be done?
Yeah, just fast forward this thing, baby.
Yeah.
It would be awesome.
That's it. Yeah. You get the hometown guy there in the 4th round who grew up a Broncos fan right there from Cherry Creek High School, who would be over the moon at getting to stay right there at home. You can develop him there behind Evan Engram. You get your 1st and 2nd down power back. You get your joker back, and you get your foundational piece on the defensive line. And oh boy, I mean, imagine a defensive line where you've got Kenneth Grant along with Zach Allen, DJ Jones, and John Franklin Myers and Malcolm Roach. Woo!
Waves.
Oh my goodness.
We should talk about that with pass rushers. You'd have waves of defensive linemen.
Well, with pass rushers, if Jonah Ellis takes the next step, and that was another thing. We'll have to do it. We could do a show on guys taking the next step, because there were some interesting comments from George Paton talking about when Nick Bonito took the next step and having patience. And he was asked about Jonah Ellis and saying, hey, and that's where he started talking about seeing it in Bonito. And I think they see Jonah Ellis as one of those guys who, with patience, is going to start taking those next steps. It's part of, you felt comfortable trading Baron Browning because of what you had. I mean, I know that there are a lot of people in Broncos country who say, oh, go trade for Von Miller, bring Von home. If you bring in Von Miller, he takes snaps from Jonah Ellis. He takes snaps from Dondrea Tillman. And there are a lot of high hopes in that building for both of them. And they're both second-year guys on cheap contracts that you want to keep giving snaps to because they've shown you a heck of a lot of promise. You don't want to take snaps from those guys.
Not at all.
Yeah. So that's part of the equation as well. I mean, you could have two guys as your reserves on the edge who can help you have a second wave there, right? Like, yeah,
you'd almost have two different starting front fives.
Yeah. So we're saying Henderson in the second, Judkins in the third, right? Like that's
in this fantasy mock draft scenario.
It's probably a little bit of a dream to say that Henderson drops that far, but you may say I'm a dreamer, but I'm not the only one.
Exactly. You shouldn't be the only one. And we should keep dreaming about running back combinations that work with this team. And two backs in the draft is what they could do. But when will they take the back?
Okay. So what if I gave you this, let me give you a realistic combination, maybe one that's they don't have the experience working together, but maybe a more realistic combination is Caleb Johnson and Brashard Smith.
The only thing that scares me about Smith, and I did send you those fumble numbers via direct message, like that's the only thing that scares me about Smith. He's a playmaker, he's a weapon, and Caleb Johnson is DeMarco Murray, in my opinion. That's high praise. I think that's he's a different style back, more of an upright back, but plenty of swiftness and power with what he brings to the field.
Yeah. Slamming between the tackles.
Yep.
He'll behind that offensive line between the tackles, I think he's getting you 4-4 a carry.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, when you block it for 3, he's going to get you 4. When you block it for 6, he's going to get you 8. When you block it for 1, he's going to get you 2.
Mm-hmm. So he's not Leroy Horde. When you need 1 yard, he'll get you 3. Or it was he who said the story supposedly, I don't know if it's true or not, is that Coach, when you need 1 yard, I can get you 3. When you need 5 yards, I can get you 3.
Sounds about right. Sounds about right. Caleb Johnson would be very exciting for Broncos country. In addition to another running back as well, in addition to more of an explosive back there, when we look at the guys that they would have interest in there, there's some names that pop up. I still don't think we've talked about Jordan James enough on this show or just on the Denver airwaves. You know what I mean? If we talk about that style of back, man, I still want Devin Neal. I know you wouldn't get Caleb Johnson and Devin Neal, but, and you'd have to get your lightning back before you got Neal. And our guy Chad Ryder says he's a 5th rounder. I don't see that. I see 3rd round on him, but like Henderson and then Neal in the 4th,
maybe,
because you don't have a 5th. You got those 3 6th rounders.
Well, these are all guys we need to keep talking about because lurking beneath the surface is the notion of the Broncos going D-line at some point early in the draft because the idea of continuing to feed the line and specifically the defensive line is something that is still on George Paton's mind.
I think you have to, and that was a big, why we brought DJ back. We think DJ is one of the better noses in the league. And so why wouldn't we bring him back and just keep building on his strength? And I think that's how you get better. We had a really good defense last year. How can we take it to the next level? And so that's why it was important for us to strengthen at all 3 levels, DJ, Greenlaw, Hufanga, down the middle of the defense. And so it's really important to build on a strength when you have.
Yeah.
Build on a strength, and defensive line is a strength.
They've done that, and that's not something that they're done with. I expect a defensive lineman at some point in this draft.
You should.
Yeah.
And Mace, what's remarkable is now they're building depth.
Yeah.
PJ Locke's a backup now. Drew Sanders is a backup.
I got a really silly question earlier this week on social media about, someone saying that I should ask Sean Payton about why they haven't cut Adam Troutman and PJ Locke. I'm like, why would you do that? That's stupid. Why would you cut quality depth, quality rotational guys?
Yeah.
That's asinine. That's idiotic.
Troutman's going to play a role, and Troutman's also
Yeah.
going to be a coach for Sean Payton whenever
Yeah.
he wants to be done.
Troutman, if you don't draft a tight end in the first 3 rounds, Troutman probably will play as many snaps as Ingram.
Mm-hmm.
Troutman's still your primary inline tight end. For those who are hoping that he's going to be out of the mix, nope, not happening.
Well, I could say this and hope Evan Ingram plays forever and ever and ever, but Troutman could just last longer than Ingram, even past Ingram's contract. Troutman could be the guy that now your pass catching tight end is Ingram. Troutman's the blocker.
Yep.
And in 3 years, Gunnar Helm's your receiving tight end, and Troutman's still your blocker.
Mm-hmm.
He's here, everybody. He's here.
Yeah. Keep signing 2-year contracts.
Keep bringing it up. And
Like he might perpetually be that 2 years, $8 million, and then becomes like 2 years, $9 million, then 2 years, $10 million as the cap keeps going up, right? He's a glue guy.
mm-hmm.
Sean Payton values glue guys in the locker room, guys who
Right.
they're smart, they know their role. The thing with Troutman that's so valuable is he understands how all the parts on offense fit. And by the way, when he does get those opportunities, he actually, as we saw last year, he can make a dynamic play from time to time.
Mm-hmm.
So he's not a void when his number gets called. That's the kind of the nice bonus thing on him. I wanted to play one more comment from George Paton on this running back draft class. And it sort of illuminates what we're talking about when we're getting into these day 2 running backs. So I want to play this and see. I want to know what you hear, what you notice when you listen to George Paton talking about this draft class.
It's a strong class, and there's different flavors throughout the draft, and I think you can get a good back in the 2nd round up and all the way to the 6th round. That's how it is. There's just so many of them. You have the 1st and 2nd down power back. You have the change of pace. You have the 3rd down. You have the 3 down. Not as many 3 down backs, But no, it's a good class. We'll get it back in this draft.
So did he drop a hint that 2nd to 6th round, or did he do a misdirection by saying 2nd to 6th round to say maybe they're going to pick the running back in round 1?
Perhaps.
Yeah.
I also, and here's what backs up your theory about that, Mace.
Mm-hmm.
He said 3 down backs. Not many of them. Well, there's Marion Hampton's one.
I can think of 2.
I can think of 3 because I love Devin Neal. But no. There's 2. There's 2. Not many 3 down backs.
Yeah. But he said
Hampton.
2nd to 6th round. So you'd hear that and think, oh, they're going to pick a running back in the 2nd to 6th round. And there aren't
probably, yeah.
Yeah. So he's very cagey, this George Paton.
He was in a mood, Mace. You were around him. Yeah, he was in the George mood, and I like that.
Yes.
George mode.
Well, he mentioned that as this show is Wednesday, so this was when draft meetings back at Broncos HQ were going to begin. So the meetings in Palm Beach got done and he was in draft mode, baby.
Love it.
Yeah. The traveling for pro days and the meetings and whatnot done. Time to get down to business. Get
Time
that
to
draft
look the
board
box.
set. Yep. Time to get that draft board set and crystallize the plan and make it happen here. Tomorrow, we're going to be T-minus 3 weeks until the draft.
You love it. Absolutely love it. And then I got to thinking, Mace, because Marion Hampton wears 28, and I was like, wonder how much Tyler Bidet is going to get for that number.
Ooh. Oh, man.
Hey, I'm sorry. He's wearing 28. If the Broncos take him in the 1st round, he's wearing 28.
That's rough. It's a rough game.
Broncos running backs that wore 28. Gaston Green.
Royce Freeman.
Yeah. You're right. Boy, it's pretty slim at 28 for Broncos running backs.
Yeah, like
I think I was talking to Kevin Kistner about this, and he was like, "Oh, didn't Monte Ball wear that?" I'm like, "No."
no, he did.
Oh, he did wear 28.
Monte wore 28.
Okay.
Jamal Charles wore 28.
Yes.
Latavius Murray wore 28.
Okay, there you go.
Michael Pittman wore 28.
What did Curl Buckhalter wear back then? 39?
No, he wore 28.
He wore 28. Okay.
Yeah.
There you go. C-Buck.
Kenoy Kennedy at safety wore 28.
I remember him.
One of the great surnames in Broncos history, Butler Binote, with 2 apostrophes in his surname, wore 28.
Nice.
Back in the 90s. And the number 28 with the most significant play by a number 28 in Broncos history, Jeremiah Castile stripping the ball from Ernest Biner just before he crossed the goal line in the 1987 AFC Championship game. So Jeremiah Castile responsible for the fumble wearing jersey number 28.
Fantastic.
There you go.
I like that history.
Yep. And also one of the great what might have beens in Bronco history, Quentin Carter. Great rookie season in 2011, and then shredded his knee in the Staff Dome, the South Suburban Sports Dome, during a training camp practice in 2012, back before the Broncos had an indoor facility. They had to move a practice over there, and was never the same. It was like, because they had the field, which was never in great shape. They had the concrete, and he was making a play in the end zone. He, went from the field to the concrete, and that's where he tore his ACL. Brutal.
Yeah, we were there.
Brutal.
We were there, and it was not fun. And I think he was covering Decker, if memory serves.
Believe so. Yeah.
All right, Mace, we will wrap up today's program. But before we're out of here, folks can help us out on YouTube. How do they do that?
Like,
comment,
share,
subscribe,
hit that notification bell
so that you
never miss a vid.
That's right. He's Andrew Mason. You follow him on all the socials at Mace Denver. I'm at Cecil Lammy saying OBT's BFD. Thanks for watching. Stay tuned. Stay frosty.